Hello, friends. I am Sultan Inamdar, professor at Modern College, Sharinagar, Pune. So, today we are going to discuss the second part of the same subject called as Human Rights 2. In previous part, we have seen the basic meaning of fundamental rights, and in this, we are going to discuss about the remaining part of this subject. So, it is going to be the second lecture of the human rights subject. So essentially, we have to understand the basic core meaning of the Constitution to move ahead. What exactly do we mean by Constitution? Because finally, eventually, we are supposed to land up on the topic called as human rights. But before that, we have to understand that what exactly do we mean by Constitution and where this concept of Constitution is coming up over here. So we all know that basically there is a constitution for every nation almost, which is working on the principle of rule of law. And when it comes to rule of law, so those rules are supposed to be written somewhere, and that rule book is called as constitution, which is applicable to almost all the democratic nations, and sometimes it is applicable to non-democratic regimes as well. So, uh, briefly, we can say that almost everything uh, we do is governed by some set of rules. Whenever it comes to governance, without rules, governance is not that easy. It becomes quite difficult. And in this case, we can simply see that whatever actions are taken by the government, whatever actions are taken by the governmental agencies and institutions, they are all regulated and guided by the constitution. Because ultimately we have to follow rules and regulations. So therefore, all the agencies of the government are supposed to follow some ideas, some principles which are written in the constitution. And as per that only, the entire nation is supposed to function. So it's all about setting few rules which are applicable to entire nation. And we need laws in society, right? So our society can regulate and work properly. This is the basic idea that if you want your society to remain in particular peace, if you want your society to prosper and grow, you need to maintain law and order in the nation. And when it comes to maintaining law and order, naturally, the police department, home ministry, and other ministries in coordination with each other are protecting this nation within. And definitely, we have our soldiers who are protecting the nation on the borders. Right? So they are doing their duties. They knows their task. It is only because there is a particular constitution which is there in action. Laws tells us what to expect as consequence of our actions. It is very obvious that whenever we are aware of the rules and regulations, so naturally we can assume, we can expect that if you take so and so action, so what may be the consequence of your actions. So for that reason, it is very quite obvious that we are aware of the consequences of our actions. Therefore, we might or we may choose our consequences or our actions very wisely. And just imagine that what would happen if there is no constitution at all, if there is no rules and regulations at all. So it will lead to a complete anarchy. Anarchic situation will be there. Complete destruction can be seen in the nation. And to avoid that, we need a particular rule these rules and regulations. And for that, naturally, we need a particular constitution. So here, a constitution is concerned with two main aspects. First, the relation between different levels of the government, like local body, then state government, and then central government. These are the three layers in the government. So how these governments are functioning? What are the relations between these three levels of the government? What are the relations between different agencies, different directorates, different departments of the government? These all are defined by the constitution. And second thing, the relation between government and the citizen, that how government is supposed to treat their citizens, right? How government is supposed to function to protect the interest of the citizens. So what kind of relationship is built between government and citizen is also essential aspect, essential part of the constitution. When it comes to constitution, we have to understand that it's all about power of the people, that where exactly we are standing. As you can see in this picture, the people don't know their real or true power. They have mobilized together, they have huge power together, and leader alone cannot do anything without the support of citizens or people. And if these all citizens start living these leaders, they might fall down anytime. Therefore, people have the real power, they have the true power. And that's the reason due to which we have to understand that what amount of power is there with the people. However, this power is supposed to be utilized wisely. We need to perform few functions, right? There are few things like constitution is to provide a set of basic rules that allow for minimal coordination amongst member of society. So what the constitution does, it provides a basic set of rules wherein it will prescribe a particular process, a particular journey, that how we are supposed to behave in a society. It is there to specify who has the power to make decisions in the society. This is the constitution which decides, which specifies that who has what power. Like we call parliament as the law-making body. Right? Parliament is the law-making body. Executive branch of the government is there to execute or implement the laws which are made by the parliament, legislature. And third, judiciary is there. It is there to adjudicate, to cross-check whether whatever laws are made by the parliament are correct, and whatever decisions which are implemented or taken by the executive are correct or not. It is supposed to be seen by judiciary. So, however, in short, we can say it is a kind of guardian, it is a kind of protector of the constitution. It also decides how the government will be constituted. Means whatever democratic government is there, on what ground, on what basis this government will be constituted. Right? If someone wants to form the government, so they need to follow a particular criteria, basic criteria. If someone is fulfilling that basic criteria, so that person may come in power. That's the thing. A constitution is to set limitation on the powers of the government. This is also one of the important elements. We all are aware that the constitution gives power to the government. But at the very same time, we have to understand that these powers are not unlimited in nature. There are certain limitations on the powers which are exercised by the government. And therefore, we need to understand these limitations. Whenever government is functioning, whenever parliament is functioning, whenever they are supposed to make any law or policy, they are supposed to consider the limitations which are there on their powers. So, of course, powers are there, but they are not unlimited in nature. However, we can say that there are certain reasonable restrictions on the powers of the government. And eventually, it is there to enable the government to create conducive atmosphere for a just society. Just society is that wherein we expect the correct things to happen in society, right things to happen in society. Ultimately, government is more powerful. Government has control over all the agencies of the government. So therefore, with the help of these agencies, government can naturally establish justice. However, they may need some time, some amount of time to do that. But if government decides, they can obviously bring justice in the society. So preamble of the constitution is there, which talks about the rights, which talks about certain duties, and all these things are mentioned, like sovereignty is there, socialism, secularism, democratic republic, all such kind of ideal principles are there in the Indian Constitution's parliament. So the first very word of the preamble begins with the statement called as "We, the people of India." We can understand that when it comes to the Constitution, the very first page, that is the identity card of the Constitution, to which we call preamble, is beginning with the word called "We, the people of India." So you can understand that how much importance is given to the people of this nation. There are few concepts, there are few principles which are there in the Constitution, in the preamble, which we need to understand. We will go one by one and we will get it clarified. The first word, that is we the people, it signifies that the power is ultimately vested in the hands of the people of India, right? Even though parliament is sovereign, even though judiciary is there, so all these, you can say, supreme bodies are existing. But at the very same time, we have to understand that the real power exists with the people. These are the people who decides who should be there in the power and who should be out of the power. The word sovereign is used. It simply means free to follow internal and external policies, that no other country should interfere in the affairs of the nation. If we are living in India, so it will be Indians and Indian government which will make the rules and regulations, and no other country will dictate what India should do and what not. This signifies the sovereignty of this nation. Second word is secular. It simply means that the state government or the state should not prefer any kind of religion. When I'm using the word state, it is applicable to entire nation. So the government in the country should not support a particular community or particular religion. Rather, it should give equal importance, equal weightage to all the religions and all the communities in the country. Socialist, it simply means that there should not be any kind of concentration of power in few hands. Rather, it should be distributed equally amongst citizens. So is the case with power. Power should also not be concentrated only with few people. The power should be decentralized. It simply means that power should be given to all the subordinate uh, officials. Democratic, it means ruled by elected representatives of the people of India. It shows that India is a democracy, and therefore rules and regulations and entire governance of this nation should be controlled and regulated by the elected representatives of this nation. Next term is republic. It means no room For hereditary ruler or monarch, the head of the state, head of the nation, should be elected by the people. It might be direct or it might be indirect, but there should not be any kind of monarch or king. Rather, the head should be elected and not hereditary in nature. The term justice is there, which defines about social, economic, and political justice, that there should not be any kind of discrimination on the lines of social, economic, and political field. Every person should get equal weightage in terms of social, economic, and political justice. Liberty of thought, freedom, expression, belief, faith, worship is also given to the Indians, that every Indian can exercise freedom of expression, belief, faith, and worship. And however, there are certain reasonable restrictions on those liberties. Equality of status and opportunity. So, equality is supposed to be maintained. No special status will be given to anyone, and all citizens will be treated equal in the eyes of law. And last one is fraternity, assuring the dignity of the individual and the unity of integrity and the nation, wherein all people, all citizens are supposed to behave like brothers and sisters of each other. A sense of unity should be developed amongst the citizens of this nation. And as you can see that there is a preamble which is presented on the screen. You can see, you can watch. Just now, the preamble which we just read is here in the picture form. So it was all about the constitution and the need of constitution. This was, I think, sufficient content which I tried to give you. And in the next lecture, in the next class, we will begin with the remaining points. For today, let's conclude over here. Thank you.